I'll just introduce Anupama in a short while. Anupama is a global equity and inclusion professional at Reboot. She is a passionate exponent of equity and inclusion and a social entrepreneur with an endeavor to create equitable and inclusive workplaces and society. She leads Reboot as an equity and inclusion strategist firm that consults with organizations in formulating and executing their D&I strategy in sync with their values and vision across all segments of diversity. A fervent champion of women's economic empowerment and a women's workforce participation SME. She is also the founder of Reboot, uh, her community of reuniting women professionals with a stated goal of equipping them for sustainable and thriving careers. Having said that, I also want to say about Anupama that I find her, you know, so much having so much of warmth, and she's giving us, I am learning from her whatever talks we have on and off in these 2 days. So thank you, Anupama, again for
Thank you.
being
Thank you for your kind
and
words.
taking. Yeah. And let's be the Pankaj here.
Right.
I welcome you,
Hi,
Pankaj.
Pankaj.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dipali. Welcome, Pankaj. I'll start by introducing Pankaj to the group here. Uh, Pankaj is an environmental and management expert with over 30 years of experience as a business leader across various fields related to energy and environmental issues. He's the MD of a firm providing design, implementation, and maintenance services, and also the secretary and governing body member of SPHEEHA, an international NGO that works in the areas of environment, ecology, and heritage. Welcome to the Fireside Chat, Pankaj. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your opportunity to invite me for this particular World Summit.
So we'll jump right in, and I'll start by talking about the SDG 13, which is taking urgent action to combat climate change. Climate change is indeed a major contributor to, cities actually are a major contributor to climate change. What do you think is the link? Do share your thoughts on the link between the environment and cities of today.
Okay. See, Sustainable Development Goal, as we all know, is something which all countries around the world are struggling to achieve their targets by 2030. And as you said, you specifically said about SDG 13, which talks about climate change. And all of us in the world are seeing the effect of climate change. People used to doubt whether it is really climate change or it is just a community creating some research and showing climate change is the effect of all these. But the world has, I think, realized after COVID-19 that it is climate change. It is if all citizens across countries, across communities, across resident welfare associations, in all micro to macro level, if start working together and with some defined objectives, then I think we can really fight this climate change. And SDG 13, I would not go into the details of SDG 13 because it is more very comprehensive and it is more policy and related matter. But if from a common man perspective or for a common citizen or a community, like for example, we in the organization which I represent is the Society for Preservation of Healthy Environment, Ecology and Heritage of Agra, which is not just Agra-based organization, but it's a global organization with around 600 plus members across the globe. And what we are doing, I mean, we started with like-minded people in Agra, where a community, which is Dalbagh, was working for improvement of the surroundings and developed it into an eco village. So I'm relating climate change to a small micro level eco village, which government of UP and government of India, Ministry of Environment and Health also appreciated that how this small eco village, which is around 1,800 acres, uh, developed and maintained by community, can be emulated by other societies, other cities, or it is in a micro level. You can call it as a smart city. Now, if we see the climate change, what happens in a climate change is you are trying to emit as low greenhouse gas emissions. So if you are living in a society or a resident colony, there are certain limitations of consumption of electricity. There are certain levels of crop culture where you are doing agriculture activity for your health and well-being. So all these components, when are combined and looked at from a city perspective, if you take from a micro level to a macro level of a city, for example, a smart city, even Agra is a smart city. I mean, it has qualified in various topics of that. So we are moving from e-mobility to smart lights and things like that. But I think there is a collective action which is required to achieve our sustainable development goals, from a small micro level to cities to nations to the world. Then only this objective of climate change can be achieved. Your voice, I'm not able to hear.
Yeah. So with respect to climate change, and you also shared about your, the good work you're doing in Dayalbagh at a micro smart city level. What do you think makes a city smart? If I may ask you a question as basic as.
Okay. Yeah. So see, the word smart is it's something from a climate perspective or from a smart city perspective is that we are acting or we are doing activities around our living in such a manner that we are sustainable. For example, again, I'm giving the example of activities in here. I was reading on your website of Rise World where you have advertised your this summit, and one of your, I think, your in charge or the leader, I read that they have said diversity and inclusion to innovation and diversity. That was a very good line where your team leader, I think Karen or Chief Impact Officer, she has given this word from nice to do to need to do. So in a smart, I would say she has summarized from nice to do to need to do is from diversity to inclusion to innovation and diversity. So a smart people, what a smart city or a smart initiatives is something which takes innovation as a part of its living. And diversity, earlier a few years back, the terms were that diversity brings innovation. Like, for example, United States used to be called a diverse, from people from diverse countries, various race and various cultures are coming, and they are able to give best innovation. While now innovation and diversity go hand in hand. Innovation can be applied to any stream. During COVID-19, we have seen that people are indoor and food is the only necessity. And in last 2 years, what I have seen and world over, we are seeing agriculture is getting most important, I would say, study or activity. People are focusing about agriculture production, agriculture produce efficiency. So if we take innovation and diversity to agriculture, there is a simple example which people are now calling it agroecology. And in SPHEEHA, we are also associated with this Dayalbagh community and International Center of Agroecology, which is in New York, where the small example of innovation and diversity is applied. For example, you are producing certain crop, and within that crop land, if you are able to diversify it with some kind of fodder or other kind of crops, which can be simultaneously grown. So you are able to use the complex nature of agriculture and producing more efficient farm produce, which can be very efficiently utilized within the local community. Again, the concept of circular economy will also come into that, because you are able to feed, you are able to produce based on the requirements of that particular area. So the produce from that area need not go miles away and spend fuel and other energies uh, for its consumption. So based on the local need, local farming, and the local food habits, those kind of small examples of innovation and diversity can have a multiple or good effect on society at large.
That's true. That's true. So do share maybe, which are the cities, let's say globally, few cities that you can name globally, which are considered smart cities today. Do we have any in India?
See, there are many globally. There are many cities, say Singapore, and they have very less space for agriculture production. So they are going on hydroponics and things like that, where they have smart systems for their CCTV, and they make intelligent decision based on using digital technologies. So I would say the world over, the smart cities are much more developed than India, because India has its own issues in terms of technology availability, technology cost, and the usage, which we are slowly evolving. And I think we will reach that stage sooner or later. But I would not say that India should just adopt those smart cities so-called practices just because they seem to be smart for us. What we should call smart is how we are able to utilize the resources available to us in a very efficient way, so that at a very least cost we are able to uh, work around in a city and achieve our objectives. So India smart cities objectives and the world over smart cities objectives, I think, has to have some kind of different thinking. Even smart cities in India, I mean, a city which has much more literacy rate, and a city which has more of rural population, uh, is there are different ways the smart objectives has to be achieved. So I think we should not just do copy paste kind of a thing from smart cities around the world. We have to localize the thing. We have to think of different ways. So frugal innovation is something which is very important for India. When I say frugal innovation, there is a very good book called Jugaad Innovation by Oxford professors, which can be referred, where how the Jugaad innovation. Jugaad is not a term which should be used in a derogatory way. Jugaad is something which we are able to achieve our objectives in a very frugal way, and that's I think the uniqueness or the ability of Indian mind, where they are able to produce innovation in a cost-effective way.
True that. And I think it's not an overstatement to say that Indians have forever anyway been frugal. So we have that mindset very well. So it's not a difficult jump for us. Dipali earlier shared with you a little bit about my background, and I work in the gender space. So I have a natural propensity to look at everything from a gender lens. So as a woman, and add to that the fact that I'm a woman myself, someone who's born and brought up and lived and worked in metro cities in this country, and in metro cities also, which are supposed to be hubs of development, as a woman, I have seen and I still see that there are so many areas which are underdeveloped. So many areas, whether you talk about health and hygiene for women, whether you talk about safety for women, access, those areas are still lagging behind. So when you talk about smart cities with somebody, a woman, there's bound to be some skepticism around. You have to have a certain baseline of infrastructure, of social infrastructure, before you make a plan on saying that I want, say, Mumbai or Delhi to become a smart city. Because otherwise, you're talking about all nice things like technology and smart cards and swipe-based transport, but the very basics seem to be missing. What are your thoughts on that?
See, you have touched a very important point, and as you said, you are working on that stream or that line of action. I feel when we say smart cities, the smart cities have to be women-centric, and that should be the basic requirement. For example, if we talk of office spaces, now if we when 20, 30 years back, or maybe even just 5 years back, offices never used to have places for ladies who have very small children. Somebody they have to take care of even when they are spending 8 hours in office. Now there are companies, big corporations, even certain small companies also. They are providing, they are encouraging that those young women, young mothers, can bring their children to the workplaces, and that's, I think, should be encouraged, so that smart cities, they are able to take care of the young child when they are doing work. Another point which you just mentioned is how safe is for women in a digital world, that you are swiping, you have all abilities of mobility, but how safe is those kind of transportation systems? So I think the CCTV camera integrated systems, those security and safety systems, once are there and they are used properly, then probably that kind of safety culture, safe and secure environment is also created, apart from patriarchal attitude. I think those education, as basically what is missing is in a smart city, is not just in terms of infrastructure or in terms of technology uses, but the need for basic education, need for basic understanding of human values, healthcare habitats is very important. And we as an NGO, SPHEEHA, is also working towards bridging that gap between citizens and the government bodies, non-government bodies, private sectors. How there are policies, there are schemes, but how it reaches to the common man. So there has to be a kind of a bridge in between. So we are acting as that bridge between those communities and the government bodies, to bring education, to bring environmental awareness, environmental consciousness, or you can say gender equality.
Right, absolutely.
Break those barriers. I'll give a very good example of this particular thing which you brought about, and it is very critical for remote areas. There is when I said the word agroecology is something which is very much in parallel to sustainable development goals.
Of course.
Sustainable development goal, if you see from a management perspective, has a top-down approach, while agroecology, from a management perspective, has a bottom-up approach. So it has a more inclusive approach. It takes into account the more realistic factors which are there at the ground level. So the author of, or the kind of one of the developers of agroecology, is Indian, I'm forgetting his name, from Oxford or Cambridge, I think. And he had co-authored a book on the agroecology, which I can share later. They used in Africa, where women were not treated so well. I mean, or for the development of the society, unless women empowerment is there, the child is not empowered, and when child is not empowered, the whole community collapse in coming years. So unless women empowerment is there, so what these guys, when they did research in that area, they found that there is a nutritional kind of nutritional level of children is very less, and they are dying because of that, and their malnutrition is giving them less knowledge, or their IQ levels and things like that. And the root cause, when they tried to go into the root cause, they found that the women of that particular society or the neighborhood or the city are just involved in day-to-day work. The man is just doing some office work or whatever. They're not contributing anything to the house, and they are from farm things to produce to housework and everything. They don't have time to even see the child. And when they address that, and how they did that, the main man patriarchal attitude, they developed a competition in that village, where they said how men can cook, let's have a competition. And when then man developed into competition, and then they found that they can do cooking pretty well, that changed over here the responsibility of food, cooking, to child care, from mother to even sharing with the father, and the nutritional levels increased, and malnutrition. So there is a complete study and a research paper on that, which can be applied in India as well in certain rural parts. So
Actually, a lot of work on this front is already on. There is a lot of research that we can just close our eyes and quickly copy, because we know these, we mirror the issues in our, and as always, these topics, there's not enough time to cover the depth of these topics. And, it's very important that we keep not just the gender, but also a complete spectrum social equity inclusion lens on. So we define the common man, and what is a common man when we talk about a common man. And when we're talking about smart cities or climate change, we have to start with the lowest common denominator, which is why probably you're saying that agroecology is more successful, because it starts from the it sort of starts from the ground up, which is why even if you go back to the 1970s, we had the Chipko movement, and why women are so close to what is the environment or the ecology. Women are also critical for conserving those pieces. I do have a comment in the chat that is, I'm not sure which city Mr. Patil is from, but he says that he is from Ashwini, could you read that for me? I'm not able to scroll very well here. He says that I'm a resident of a smart city. Yeah. Or Dipali,
I will read it. Yeah.
Yeah, Dipali. And I also moved Patil.
Yeah.
Spanish.
Okay. I'm a resident of a smart city. Large number of interventions made so far are neither innovative nor promoting collective action. Smart city project is an avenue for undertaking, one second, I have to, deferred maintenance works and providing work for consultants.
He is from Hubli, Dharwad.
Oh, lovely.
yeah, I mean, I do agree, because you see, the smart city terminology came when the Mr. Prime Minister announced that thing a few years back. A similar thing was there around 10 to 12 years back, called Eco City. And Eco City, I'm just connecting what he's saying to what has already been done in the past and resulted in kind of a little bit failure, I would say. So government selected Central Pollution Control Board, CPCB, was involved in eco city projects, and they selected all places of spiritual importance like Mathura, Vrindavan, Ujjain, Puri, and cities like that, and ultimately, what gentleman Mr. Patil is just remarking, exactly same thing happened. What was the model was 50% of the project will be funded by the local municipal corporation, 50% will be funded by central government. And again, there was lack of planning, the lack of participation, community participation. Only one city showed good result, was Oroville. Now, if we carefully analyze the big brother of EcoCity, called a smart city, the name change with certain inclusion of digital things, I think the answer to this is, if you see smart cities, their first survey was done of citizenship participation. That was the first thing for qualification of any city to be in the smart city. Now, just by putting tech everywhere, the people were coming and then taking, municipal corporations, that citizenship is involved. So if the involvement of citizens is only to the extent of ticking and getting our name as a smart city and getting funded by the government of India, then I think the objective has failed from the beginning. So to a certain extent, unless citizens' involvement, Mr. Patil, wherever you are living in that community or your resident welfare association, if you start getting, some kind of participation in that and move to your local municipal bodies, and some voice has to be raised, and otherwise, absolutely, you are right. I mean, this is kind of a deferred maintenance works and work for consultants, which is exactly going on. If 100 is spent, probably the reaping benefit is only of 25. But are we responsible as a citizen? We have to be a little more at a micro level we can do, and that is what we are doing in SPHEEHA. I mean, we are in Agra city. We are only, although it is a global organization, but we started with Agra as our base, and we did our work in zone 2 of Agra. There are 6 zones in Agra, and in zone 2, this particular organization, with the help of community, is able to make zone 2 as a lung space of Agra. The ratio of green belt is very much higher than the city green belt. So it is up to us and to make change. As your officer has said, nice to do to need to do is something I think we all need to do.
Right.
Smart cities has nice things to do. It will remain. I mean, it is in paper, it looks good. But what needs to be done is something which we all have to think what we can do at the micro level and move on to macro level.
Yes, absolutely. Pankaj, I think this is a never-ending debate on the accountability and ownership of all the parties involved, whether it's for smart cities or it's for ODF or it's for toilets for everyone and everywhere. I think the issues are plenty and at hand. And as we said earlier, and you also shared that it's not just technology that makes a city smart. Really, we have to start from the ground. Thank you so much for this very, very interesting discussion.